You think you know the story of Paul Bunyan, the giant lumberjack who strode across the North American wilderness with his mighty blue ox by his side. Children hear the tale in school, tourists see carved statues in logging towns, and it has become a symbol of cheerful folklore, a friendly exaggeration of pioneer life. But what if I told you that this towering woodsman may not be just a playful invention? What if hidden beneath the humor of tall tales lies something far older, darker, and more mysterious? Scholars of folklore and archaeology whisper of connections between Bunyan and ancient sky gods, of ritual axes unearthed in pre-Columbian soil, and of uncanny similarities to myths told thousands of miles away. Beneath the surface of a seemingly innocent American legend lies a labyrinth of symbols, oral traditions, and cultural memory stretching back thousands of years. The question remains, was Paul Bunyan a simple lumberjack, or a fragment of an ancient archetype that refuses to die? Once upon a time, in the vast forests of North America, there lived a lumberjack of impossible size and strength named Paul Bunyan. His cradle was so huge that it required a team of oxen to rock him to sleep, and his appetite was so great that entire herds of cattle had to be slaughtered to keep him fed. As the story goes, Paul grew into a man of enormous stature, tall enough to step across rivers, and powerful enough to clear entire forests with a single swing of his mighty axe. He was never alone, for at his side lumbered Babe the blue ox, a creature as gigantic as its master, strong enough to drag whole mountains and reshape rivers. Together, Paul and Babe carved out the American frontier. When loggers struggled with the harsh wilderness, Bunyan strode forth, cutting timber, dragging logs, and reshaping the land to suit human needs. Some tales say that the Great Lakes themselves were formed when Paul's giant footprints filled with water. Other versions claim that rivers were bent into new courses by Babe's dragging yoke, or that Paul scooped valleys with his enormous hands. In the end, Bunyan always triumphed. Obstacles that seemed impossible to ordinary men were only minor inconveniences to him. His legend spread from camp to camp, delighting weary lumberjacks and inspiring settlers. He became the symbol of determination, strength, and the unstoppable will of pioneers as they pushed westward. The familiar story closes with Paul Bunyan and Babe vanishing into the northern wilderness. Their work completed, leaving behind a transformed landscape. Generations of Americans would retell his exploits, laughing at his exaggerations, while never realizing what older truths might lie hidden beneath this myth of strength. The Paul Bunyan story was not always the cheerful frontier yarn we know today. It first appeared in print in 1906, in a publication of the Detroit News Tribune, where journalist James McCliveray recorded the oral tales told among Michigan lumber camps. In these earliest accounts, Bunyan was larger than life, but the stories were tinged with satire, mocking the hardships and exaggerations of loggers' lives. By 1916, however, a promotional booklet by William Lafhead transformed Bunyan into a corporate mascot for the Red River Lumber Company. Lafhead's version gave Bunyan a full biography, polished adventures, and his iconic companion Babe the blue ox. From that moment, Paul Bunyan was no longer just a campfire exaggeration but a figure reshaped by advertising, commerce, and the cultural need for national heroes. Over time, Bunyan's tales softened. Once rough and bowdy, they became child-friendly stories read in classrooms and published in glossy picture books. The axe that once mocked the brutal labor of timber camps became a symbol of industrious triumph. The wilderness, once terrifying, was recast as a playful arena for a giant's antics. Different eras projected their own needs onto Paul Bunyan. The loggers of the 19th century used him as comic relief during grueling labor. Early 20th century industrialists used him as a marketing tool. Mid-century America polished him into a wholesome folk hero for children. In every retelling, Bunyan was remade, proving that this legend was never static. Instead, it shifted with the currents of history, reflecting the anxieties, ambitions, and dreams of the people who carried it. On closer inspection, Paul Bunyan's legend carries echoes far older than American lumber camps. His colossal size and sky-shaking strength mirror ancient giants found in global mythology. In Norse tradition, the frost giants known as Jitna shaped landscapes with their massive bodies, their battles forming mountains and valleys. Paul Bunyan, too, leaves behind altered geography, lakes, rivers, and mountain ranges explained as his handiwork. Among Native American traditions, particularly Algonquian myths, the figure of Glooskap, a giant cultural hero, rearranged the land and created rivers with a sweep of his arm. The parallels between Glooskap and Bunyan are striking, suggesting cultural blending between settler storytelling and indigenous myth. Even Greek mythology offers a comparison. The Titan Atlas, who held the heavens on his shoulders, resonates with Bunyan's image of carrying burdens beyond human measure. Atlas embodied endurance, while Bunyan embodied labor, yet both symbolized superhuman forces shaping the world itself. Perhaps Paul Bunyan was never meant to be merely a lumberjack. His axe could be seen as more than a tool. It is a cosmic instrument of transformation. Like the thunderbolts of Zeus or the hammer of Thor, his blue ox may not simply be a companion but a symbol of elemental power, a beast linked to the cosmic bull archetype present from Mesopotamian carvings to Hindu mythology. Could it be that Paul Bunyan is not just a folk invention of the frontier, but a lingering shadow of ancient myths carried into the New World and reshaped to fit an industrial age? In the late 19th century, long before Paul Bunyan was polished into a corporate mascot, archaeologists in North America were uncovering strange artifacts. In 1897, during an excavation near the Great Lakes, workers discovered a massive ceremonial axe carved from stone, far larger than anything a human could realistically wield. It bore markings resembling both Algonquian symbols and Scandinavian runes. Scholars dismissed it as a curiosity, but folklorists began to whisper, was this a relic of the very giant said to shape the lakes? By the 1920s, researchers began tracing similarities between Bunyan stories and myths told across distant regions. Inuit traditions spoke of colossal beings who dragged glaciers across the earth, reshaping coastlines. In Siberia, oral epics told of herds of massive blue animals connected to storm and water deities. Even in Mesopotamia, carvings of the cosmic bull suggested a universal archetype of a beast that controlled rivers and floods. The tale of the giant lumberjack, paired with a mighty ox, appeared far too widespread to be coincidence. Scholars suggested a common origin in ancient Indo-European traditions that migrated with people, resurfacing in altered forms across continents. Some experts speculated that the Bunyan legend may descend from an archetype dating back 10,000 years, when human communities first turned from hunter-gathering to the labor of shaping forests and fields. The giant lumberjack, then, symbolized humanity's colossal struggle against nature itself. The shocking truth was this: Bunyan's story, though seemingly American and modern, might be one of the oldest human myths in disguise. Archaeological fragments, from stone axes to carvings of bulls, stood as mute witnesses to a memory preserved not in stone alone, but in the living current of folklore. When we strip away the cheerful exaggeration, Bunyan's story begins to reveal its symbolic skeleton. What appears as simple comic storytelling might encode rituals, fears, and cosmic truths buried deep in cultural memory. The axe, Bunyan's primary tool, is more than an implement of logging. In mythic language, the axe symbolizes the boundary between wilderness and civilization. Each swing is not just woodcutting but the cosmic act of ordering chaos, of turning untamed nature into habitable space. Across ancient cultures, the axe often stood as a thunder weapon, connecting Bunyan's tool with Thor's hammer or the double-headed labyrinths of Minoan ritual. Babe the blue ox also demands interpretation. Blue, the color of water and sky, links Babe to elemental forces. In Mesopotamian myth, the bull of heaven represented destructive floods. In Hindu cosmology, Nandi, the bull, is guardian of Shiva, a being of creation and destruction. Babe could embody both, a beast whose strength reshapes rivers, but who also serves as the faithful companion of a culture hero. Even Bunyan's exaggerated body carries weight. Giants in myth often mark the tension between humanity and the cosmos, beings who embody both danger and protection. Bunyan's size is not random humor but an echo of primeval titans who wrestled with gods. The landscape-shaping stories where Paul creates lakes and rivers may represent mythic explanations of geological change. Two pre-scientific minds, glaciers carving valleys or rivers shifting courses, were too immense to comprehend. Personifying these processes in the form of a giant gave people a way to explain the unexplainable. Perhaps Bunyan's tale is not a joke about lumberjacks at all. It may be a ritual memory of humanity's first great conquest, the struggle to tame forests, to master rivers, and to impose human order on a wild and hostile earth. Paul Bunyan becomes less a man and more a mythic embodiment of civilization's earliest battle against the raw forces of nature. The story of Paul Bunyan you thought was merely a children's tale about a comical lumberjack is, in truth, far older and far stranger. It is a convergence of frontier folklore, indigenous myth, archaeological mystery, and ancient cosmology. On the surface, it delights with humor, a giant who eats mountains of flapjacks, an ox that reshapes rivers, and feats so exaggerated they bring laughter. But beneath the laughter lies the shadow of titans, sky gods, and culture heroes stretching back thousands of years. The axe in Bunyan's hands is no toy but the symbol of humanity's eternal struggle to carve order from wilderness. Babe the blue ox is no mere animal but the echo of ancient bulls tied to storm, flood, and divine guardianship. When we tell Bunyan's story, we are not simply entertaining children. We are reenacting a ritual of memory, passing along fragments of the world's most ancient archetypes. The laughter of lumberjacks around the fire was also a continuation of humanity's oldest myth-making impulse. So the next time you see a statue of Paul Bunyan towering over a logging town, consider that you are not looking at a cartoon giant but at a modern mask for something much older. You are looking at the last echo of titans, the symbolic memory of humanity's battle with nature, and the timeless archetype of the cosmic builder. And if that revelation makes you shiver, then prepare yourself, for every harmless folktale carries within it a hidden depth, and every children's story may conceal the oldest truths of all.